Hi, this is Dr. Michelle Robin with Small Changes, Big Shifts, Building Rhythm and Resilience. And I believe if you'll change one thing a month, one thing for the next 12 months, you'll change your life forever. Thanks for joining me on the journey. So today, joining me on Small Changes, Big Shifts is Brooke Seiz. She's a functional medicine nurse practitioner, helps women holistically get their groove back using a systems-based approach. She helps to uncover the root causes fueling gut, hormonal, and adrenal issues. Boy, are a lot of people feeling those things right now. Then supports clients in integrating dietary and lifestyle adjustments, no pun intended, Brooke, adjustments, chiropractor, and making behavior changes to restore energy, mood, and overall well-being. Brooke is the mother of 3 young children, and so she understands the demand of modern life. Brooke, welcome to Small Changes, Big Shifts.
Thank you for having me. And just a quick clarification, I'm a nurse, a nutrition practitioner, just so nobody's confused.
Well, thank you. Functional nutrition practitioner. I wondered about that. I thought, I did not know you were a nurse practitioner, but I read it that way 3 times. So what I also loved about your story is you're also into psychology. And one of my favorite sayings is, if you don't heal the heart, you will never heal the body. And that is so true with this COVID year we've had in 2020. So once again, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
So why are you fascinated with nutrition and psychology? Tell me your why.
Yeah, a part of it is my own journey through my own gut health issues and anxiety, and finding that functional nutrition, like I found that first, then I found counseling. And through kind of the whole mind-body approach on both sides, that did wonders for me. It helped me through disordered eating and a lot of health challenges I had. But also over I started with nutrition, and then I just found myself referring to counselors all the time because they're just so intertwined. And I just am about 6 months away from finishing a master's in counseling psychology because I finally decided to go back and add that on. But just kind of, my own journey, and then watching how things evolve with health for clients and how important they both are.
So where's your master's program at? What were you studying at?
Yeah, UMKC.
Are you? I love the Avila program and Heather Noble's over there. We actually, at Your Wellness Connection, it's not super public yet. We were taking our first counseling intern starting in January. I finally convinced Crystal that we need to create a bench because the need is so great. And like you, I refer out every day to counselors. I would say I average probably 3 texts, emails, phone calls a day of somebody saying, SOS, I need a counselor, a chiropractor, a medical doctor, a dentist, a nutritionist, all kinds of things. So, we're in this holiday season. Unfortunately, in America, we think it starts October 31st and ends after the holiday weekend. If so, January 1st is on a Friday. And so you got 2nd, 3rd. So really the new year will start January 4th-ish. What foods create a negative impact on digestive issues? Because people, as you know, people have autoimmune issues. They have gut issues. One of the top probably 5 reasons people come to see me is because of gut issues. So what foods are the common foods that impact the gut negatively?
Top 2, I would say, are sugar and gluten. And those are in a lot of things, obviously. Sugar's inflammatory for a number of reasons. And we're going to find that in all kinds of processed food. So there's so much of that in the world. And then, of course, at the holidays, I don't know what that looks like for everybody this year. It's kind of interesting because for some people, it might look kind of similar to other years. And for other people, maybe they're not seeing so many going to as many events with all the different types of food. But sugar's definitely up there. And then gluten is one of those ones that sneaks into all kinds of things from gravy to cookies and breads. And it can potentiate some leaky gut issues. It can potentiate stimulating zonulin, which is a protein that can cause the tight junctions in the gut to open up and ultimately lead to some intestinal permeability. So for people who definitely know they have gluten sensitivity, it can be hard to avoid that around the holidays. And even if people don't know, it's possible that that could be, causing them some inflammation in the gut and causing some issues.
What is leaky gut?
Leaky gut is intestinal permeability. And what that means is that we have these, think of my fingers as our gut cells, and there's these tight junctions that hold them nice and tight. And then we have and, we might talk about secretory IgA. Sometimes I mention that with stress, lining the gut that protects it. And there's a lot of things that can affect this, but if we're talking about gluten, that stimulates this zonulin protein, and that can cause these tight junctions to kind of loosen up. And if those loosen up, then we have space between the gut cells for things to larger proteins or molecules or bacteria or toxins to leak out into the bloodstream. And that can cause some inflammation. It might cause some food sensitivities for people. But that's ultimately the picture of leaky gut.
When I think about lifestyle, I talk to people about nutrition a lot, and this is our 7th season. We're getting ready to start our 8th season of this podcast, Small Changes, Big Shifts. And it's a great time to thank my sponsors, Advent Health and Community America, for all your support and believing in this message as we try to help our community be more well.
Wealth to me is big family vacations.
Houses, cars.
Money, mostly, yeah.
Am I wealthy? No, I wouldn't call myself wealthy.
Didn't have a lot of money, never really had a lot of money.
Med school certainly isn't cheap. How'd you get this picture?
This is Molly. It started pouring down rain, and we hid under the tree.
I wake up in the morning and I see her smile, and I know she's the love of my life. I think of her nonstop. She's just totally unbelievable. I wasn't expecting this.
Hey, Mama. That means she loves me.
Am I a wealthy guy?
Absolutely.
I may not have financial riches, but
I am wealthy.
So going back to my question about thinking about eating healthy and think about diets. We've had, the Mark Hymans of the world on, and Stephen Gundry talking about plant paradox. I want to have you ask what foods support the body? Because we're not talking about diets here. We're talking about how to support the body to be well. And we know that sugar and gluten typically do not support the body. Okay. What foods support the body in being well and focused and less inflamed?
Yeah. Vegetables, that's almost one thing, no matter what approach people take with their healthy diet, that vegetables is like something everybody seems to be able to agree on. And for good reason. Those are, great for gut health. So vegetables, fruits, meats, healthy fats are going to be at the top. And then from there, whole grains are going to be better than refined grain foods like breads and pastas and things like that. But then now there's so many versions of other options out there, like black bean pasta instead of whole wheat pasta and things like that. So just from like foods that are readily available for everybody, those are, the supportive options.
What's your thoughts on cooked versus raw vegetables?
Yeah, I go more seasonal with that, or individual. If somebody's prone towards having gut health or they're really stressed, I would definitely go more with cooked food, maybe even year round. But this time of year, warming foods, cooked foods are going to be better for the most part. And then in the summertime is a great time, like starting in the spring and into the summer when it's hot out, is a great time for more raw foods. But that may just depend. Like I remember working in a really cold building in the summer. So I was freezing all day. And every time I would eat a salad, I'd just be like shaking for the next hour. So I always kind of enjoy like the Ayurveda or the Chinese medicine look at typing, and some people do better with more cooling and cold foods and other people do better with the warming foods.
I'm thinking about one of my young women that I absolutely love and just having trouble kind of her body detoxing, but she's a lot of raw. I'm like, let's try to cook vegetables. She does a great job on so many wellness things. So I'm like, okay, let's just shift from raw to cooked food. I think the body's just an amazing machine. And if you just kind of listen to it, it'll kind of tell you what it wants. When I say that to you, the body's an amazing machine. If you listen to it, what do you think about?
Yeah, I mean, it really is. And everybody's so individual. It's why I love functional medicine or that functional nutrition approach is that that it is like we have all these systems and they're all interacting and it is like a machine. And if we can, they don't operate independently, so we can address different areas, but they all work together. And if we can, get one working right, it's going to help another, help another, help another. So it is like this very intricate machine, but and it can be, I think, sometimes complicated to figure out for ourselves or when we're helping other clients or patients. But when we get it figured, you know, for someone, it is so neat to watch like all of the stuff that improves.
Yeah. Talk about the psychology. Talk about the psychology of food, and then the psychology of, especially when people are stressed, how it impacts not just their gut health, but their hormonal health.
Yeah. With, you know, as far as stress, with gut health, with hormonal health, you know, I'll mention one thing, I guess, as far as gut health is that I mentioned something when we were talking about the lining in the gut, and there's this secretion called secretory IgA. And it's interesting because even on stool tests, we'll see sometimes that low and somebody's reporting a lot of stress. And it's like this really obvious marker of how stress is impacting the gut, and that we're seeing that lowered immune function in the gut and that lowered protection with stress. And then with hormones, you know, I keep thinking of this, that there's a couple doctors in Denver that did this small study, and they did a mindfulness weekend, and they tested people's like cortisol and DHEA, you know, which is that precursor to our reproductive and our stress hormones. And they tested it before, after, and then a week after. And people's DHEA was so much higher afterwards, which is a good thing. You know, it'll be lowered oftentimes with stress. And so even that building block to all of our hormones can get suppressed with stress.
So much great information you're thinking about it. You know, I think about IgAs, and, you know, I'm human like everybody else. I'm continually working on my well-being and thinking about my IgAs and my white blood count, my vitamin D, all those things that I look at once or twice a year to see how do I continue to enhance my health so I can manage my inflammatory load. As a chiropractor, what we do is extremely physical. And so I've got to make sure that I'm on top of my chemical game as well as my stress game. And I believe that sometimes we're just used to going. And then the stress kind of builds up. You don't even know it's there. To those of you listening today live, feel free to ask questions in the comment section, and I'll be happy to ask my guest today, Brooke Seiz, who's a functional nutrition practitioner, also becoming a psychologist as well. So Brooke, on this show, we like to celebrate, guide, connect, which provide hope. I'm celebrating you and the work you're doing in our Kansas City community. What are your top 3 non-negotiables for people to be well?
That is such a good question. I would say one is sleep, like getting good sleep. It's just so huge. I mean, we know that if you go a few nights, you know, with no sleep, you can literally lose your mind, like not be able to think or make decisions or anything. So I think sleep, and it's something that gets impacted with stress and with life and things like that. So it takes some focus and some effort. So I'd say number 1 is getting, you know, that 7 to 9 hours of sleep per night. 2 is breathing. I know I do nutrition as number 1, but breath is just so huge. And I find it's amazing what can happen with just deep breaths, like a few minutes a day, even with focusing on that. And that's to help us make good decisions around food, which if I had to pull one out with nutrition, it would be probably getting protein and healthy fat at meals and snacks. Like if we can just do that, we can balance blood sugar. And even if we're not picking up all of the, you know, even if we're getting sugar and other things, it's at least going to help balance our blood sugar and give us some balance.
Is there anyone you want to add? Is there one more that comes in yours?
Oh, you know, I'm thinking a lot lately. I'm about to write an article on, I'm learning somatic experiencing, and I'm starting to use that with clients. And I find it to be a really, really powerful to process stress in the body. So movement, exercise, maybe, or other methods to complete the stress response in the body, I think is huge.
So I love your non-negotiable. So in my first book, Wellness on a Shoestring, 7 Habits for a Healthy Life, that came out in 2010, hard to believe. We talked about 7 habits. And Deanne, I'm going to get your question in just a second. Rest, reflect, rejuvenate. So sleep, have fun. And my new fetish is pickleball. So that's one thing I find fun. And I love to sleep. And then the other one is, reflection and gratitude. The second habit was breathe. Third was move. Fourth was free your space. So get rid of thoughts, things in your heart, forgiveness, stuff, as well as foods. 5 was go for the greens. 6 was essential fatty acids and vitamin D. So I'm glad you brought that up. And if 7 was drink to your health with water. So it sounds like we're in alignment. Another reason why we're on this call today. Here's what I continue to believe. Being well is actually simple, except that we just continue to make it complicated. You know?
Yeah.
With adding the things in. So Deanna has a question. Are canned beans worth eating?
Oh, I think you'd be better off even if you could get frozen beans, which store really pretty much is easy. You just have to take an extra step to like cook them on the stove. I don't know that I'd say they're not worth eating, because if that's what you have for veggies, I would eat that before I'd eat a lot of other things.
You know, it's probably just looking at it. Probably fresh is best.
Yeah.
And frozen, and then canned is better than none.
Correct.
Yeah. Deanna, hopefully that answers your question there. So going back to sleep, what are some of the people we know with hormonal issues, people can wake up and they have trouble going to sleep and staying asleep. What are a couple of your sleep tips you recommend? We're getting ready to launch a sleep campaign mid-January, because I think it's the best time to focus on sleep is when it's winter and we get through the holiday hustle and bustle. So we'll be launching that. So we want to watch out for that after I get back from my vacation. So what are some of your sleep tips?
Yeah. Try to avoid screens at least an hour before bed. It's hard to do. I mean, I find that challenging. I also, though, would say second to that is keep blue light blocking glasses around, because that really helps. I even would find with grad school that trying to write papers with those on kept me calm enough. I wasn't awake enough to like think. So I think that they can work for helping you relax. So if you have to be on screens and or just putting them on as a regular routine after dark before bed, and then doing some sort of calming something before bed, whether that's a bath or a shower or a meditation or prayer, whatever is soothing and relaxing.
Well, I'm a huge bath fan. I was actually talking to a client today and we were talking about hot baths, and they're like, oh my gosh, I've never taken a hot bath. I took one the other night. My husband said, can I draw your bath for you? Because that's one of your homework assignments tonight. And she was so delicious. And I remember interviewing Norm Shealy. You heard that name before, Norm Shealy? Mm-hmm. And years ago, and I said, what is there one wellness tip for you that you recommend everybody use? To take a bath every day. And it's so great for your kids. So as you're during this time of year and your kids are home and they're stressed out, get them taking baths and maybe with some Epsom salts or some essential oils and things like that. I think that's a good tip. Brooke, one reason why, once again, I love talking to you. We're very similar. That's what I want our listeners to know. There's so much noise out there about what you can be doing to be well, but it really comes down to some basics. And these are some of my non-negotiables. Yes, there's other things you can do that are fancy pants wellness stuff, but I would not skip sleep to do a fancy pants wellness stuff. And I have the glasses too. Such good wisdom there. Brooke, just as people are around the holiday with not so healthy food, the gluten and the sugar, what are some ways to kind of navigate that? What are some of your tips?
Yeah. One is that if you're going somewhere and you know that it's going to be there, is just to bring things, just to bring like your own dish to share. That is like, we did a whole bunch of baking this past weekend. It was like almond flour everywhere. Every kid mixing a bowl. It was a lot of fun. But we just made like a variety of gluten-free. Some were even like monk fruit instead of sugar, cookies. And we had a lot of fun with it. And I gave them to neighbors. And, most people had no idea that they were, I told them what was in it, but they said, I can't tell that it's gluten-free or that it's a different type of, it's a sugar alternative. So that's one thing. And it can be really fun and kind of spread what you're doing in your own health to other people. The other thing too is that, a lot of times it's not perfect and you might end up getting some sugar, eating some gluten, and digestive enzymes can make a big difference, especially with that DPP4, gluten digesting enzyme in there. It's just to take that along. I also think that like a short intermittent fast, sometimes when we overeat or have a bunch of sugar or gluten, just to give the digestive system a rest is nice. So space out the meals, take some time between meals or snacks. Sleep, back to sleep again. And then things like tea at the end of the day, like some peppermint tea or ginger tea might be soothing as well.
So as we start to round out our conversation, we talked about celebrate, guide, and now we're going to talk about connect. I also want to remind people, speaking of connections, the kindness program is still open. It's a great thing to consider doing again as we're in this tough month. I do believe that as we think about the corona curve, I do believe we may have a tough month ahead of us, but however, I think we're on the other side at some level. But it's a dark month and maybe a little colder where you live, like in Kansas City, we're gonna have a cold week. So if you think about helping others, it'll help you continue to move through this. And once again, you could sign up for the kindness campaign if you missed it when we did it a few months ago, I should say, or you could also just make up your own stuff of how you celebrate people. So Brooke, how can people find out more about you or find these yummy recipes that are a little bit healthier?
Yeah, my website is wiredandtiredwomen.com. I post a lot of stuff there. I also post probably even more not more, but just more recipes you could find on, it's Brooke Seiz the Day, like SEIZE, like seize the day, on Instagram. Mm-hmm. And if you want a recipe too, you can always message me on Instagram. I've got files and files of them. Happy to share.
Well, I love your passion for helping people and your good energy. I've enjoyed getting to know you over the last few years through our wellness consortium. So thanks for being active in that and helping to share that message. I've got some standard questions I'd like to wrap up the show with. First one is, what is your medicine for the world?
I think, that is such a hard question. There's so many pieces and parts. So putting it all together, I think it's just connection through inside of our bodies, like connecting with our mind to our why in life, to the systems in our body and taking care of it all. And then connection to others around us, and connection to ourselves with how we process stress and how we interact with the world. Like, I don't know, that kind of sums it up probably. And it makes me tick. I mean, I'm a singer too, and my husband's a musician, and that is the same reason I love performing and music, is like connection. So,
well, that's why I named my business Your Wellness Connection. Is how they connect to themselves, and when they do that, they reconnect to a higher power and a higher knowing. And then they can have connection with other people. And so I love sharing people like you with my audience so they can get some wisdom, get some connections. I do have another question from Joanna. She tries to stay away from gluten, but when she does consume it, her stomach gets bloated. Why do people look like they're pregnant when they have gluten? Not everybody.
Yeah, that could be for a few reasons, but some people are reacting to FODMAPs in foods that have gluten. So it's possible there's some, I don't know for sure in this case, but for some people, if they have like a bit of SIBO or bacterial overgrowth, they might know that if they're getting bloated with other like fiber type of foods. That could be one thing. Another thing could just be that they're sensitive to it. It's causing some inflammation and a bit of bloating. So there could be a handful of reasons, but there's a couple.
Reasons there. Speaking of reasons to connect, I love my friends over at Community America Credit Union. Love that they're Patrick Mahomes, one of his sponsors, but also too how they help people reconnect back to their financial well-being. And I think that a lot of times people think their greatest asset is their financial wealth, but I think that the greatest asset is your health. And I love that Community America realizes that, and they're trying to help teach people that. And we've got our partners over at Advent Health who also help people try to get on the right track. So thank you to both those companies for sponsoring this message. Brooke, I'd love to end the show with a great quote. Do you have a quote that you love to share or that keeps you motivated and inspired to stay the course? Because I'm guessing if you have 3 young children and you're in school, you probably don't do everything perfect every day.
Yeah. I'm going to think of, I just put one on Instagram today, and I can't say that I have one quote, but I'm looking for really quick if I can find it, because I'm horrible at remembering details in my head, so I have to look at it. But this past year, it was so much for so many people, and I feel like the thing that I learned the most was to, I'm going to say it wrong, but it was basically like, What's that?
Do you want to look it up?
Yeah.
Here, you look for it. I'll read the quote. I'll read the quote I picked for the show today, and
Okay.
you can find your quote.
Okay.
Okay. But as I do that, I want to say thank you so much for all you're doing to help our young women and our families, because I'm passionate about making generational change. And it takes young mamas like you helping their kids so that we can stop the cycle of autoimmune, of anxiety, of depression, different things like that. So you got your quote yet? Okay, I got one.
Almost.
Everything happens when it needs to happen. Everyone is always where they need to be. You will never miss out on what is meant for you, even if it has to come to you in a roundabout way. That's Ayanna Van Sant. And so as you move through this season, continue to stay true to you, but really start dialing in and listening to your inner knowing. Because I know without a doubt, when you listen to your inner knowing, not if what Brooke and I say does not resonate with you, don't worry. We're okay with that. We want you to listen to your own inner knowing, as long as you're listening from a place of love of yourself and not fear. So, Brooke, did you find your quote?
I did. So I've heard this before, but not in a while. And somebody said it, and I just thought it summed up so much, at least for me, and something I want to remember forever. Life isn't about waiting for the storm to pass. It's about learning to dance in the rain.
Well, we've all been learning to dance this last year, and some of us found a better groove. And I know sometimes I feel guilty about finding a little bit of a better groove. And so to all of you listening today, thank you so much for taking time. I know time is your most valuable asset, and it's what helps you stay well, is because it takes time to do the little things, whether it's oil pulling or whether it's doing the meditation or taking time to sleep or taking time to read or taking time to cook. But I want you to know you're worth it. I'm hoping that 2021, you find a new groove that will help you truly live your best life, not only for yourself, but for your kids and your community. Brooke, once again, thanks for being a shining star in our community.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right. Hey, blessings to all of you. Big heart-to-heart hugs. I'll chat with you real soon. I sure appreciate you listening to Small Changes, Big Shifts. If you go to the website, smallchangesbigshifts.com, we'll have the show notes ready for you there. If this episode inspired you to make a small change that will lead to a big shift, please share with a friend. You can catch our episode on Apple, Google, Spotify, YouTube, and our website. And if you feel like it, please leave a rating or a comment. Be sure to subscribe so you can catch our episode next week. Blessings to you.